We're on learning today. It's the 7th of Kislev, Tafshin Pei Dalit, 5784. We're on learning Tanya, chapter 37, page 92. It's a long chapter, so we'll do quite a bit of reading and some explanation, more or less. Just a little taste, but hopefully it will taste your wet appetite. It'll whet your appetite. Let's go. Perek Lamed Zayin, chapter 37. V'hinei tachlis hashleimus, the ultimate purpose, hazeh shel yemois HaMashiach v'tchiyas hamesim, of the days of the messianic days and also the days when there'll be the resurrection of the dead. Now, right away, notice Menashe and Avram that the Alter Rebbe employs two periods. It's not one and the same period, otherwise it's superfluous. What's the difference between Yemois HaMashiach and Tchiyas HaMesim? So it says, it's brought down in the Sfarim and in the Rambam, that it's two separate periods. The period of Yemois HaMashiach, the Messianic days, is an earlier stage, an earlier period than the resurrection of the dead. And some argue that we are now in the Yemois HaMashiach, and whether we are or we aren't, but definitely Yemois HaMashiach, the Messianic days, is an earlier stage according to the Rambam and according to Chazal. For example, the time when there'll be miracles, but things will be very different and feel different. That's part of the Yemois HaMashiach. Again, I say clearly, there's a lot of dispute amongst the not just contemporary rabbis, but even rabbis and chachamim going back hundreds of years. What exactly is Yemois HaMashiach, and when exactly does Yemois HaMashiach begin? I think many rabbis today of all denominations, of all persuasions, agree that we're in some form of Yemois HaMashiach, even if it's not what we call Aschalta de Geula, as the Zionist movement believes. Even religious Zionism believes that it's since the Six-Day War, 1948, the Six-Day War, etc. It's Aschalta de Geula. The Rebbe and others disagreed with that. But nevertheless, so even if we don't kind of halachically say it is that way, the fact is that we have Eretz Yisrael, and the fact is that we need to protect Eretz Yisrael, and the fact is that the world is experiencing all kinds of things, both positive and unfortunately negative, that are demonstrative of a Yemois HaMashiach world. So, for example, the internet, where we could learn. Velvo's in Germany, you guys in Eretz Yisrael, I'm here in New York, and we're all learning together in the morning and the afternoon. It's Yemois HaMashiach. I couldn't do this 40 years ago. So again, is it classically Yemois HaMashiach? Is that what the Rambam means? I don't know. But what I do know is that it wasn't the norm. There's a change. So again, you can argue, is it classically halachically not? And then we have these arguments in halacha, and not bad arguments, good halachic arguments and discussions. But one thing's for sure, there is a period called Yemois HaMashiach. Then the Alter Rebbe says, the second line on page 92, chapter 37, which we're learning now, Tchiyas HaMesim. Oh, that's a different stage. For bodies to rise from the earth, that's miraculous. That is impossible except for a ness. Right? No one in history has been able to document scientifically the bodies rising from the dead. I mean, you could talk about reincarnation, you could talk about out of body, you could talk about all kinds of things. And Kabbalah talks about these things. But Bepashtus, a person who passes on is in the earth until Tchiyas HaMesim. So Tchias HaMesim is a second stage, a later stage than Yemos HaMashiach. So that's why. Let's look at the text again. V'netachlis hashleimus hazeh shel Yemos HaMashiach v'Tchias HaMesim. It's not one and the same, Yoni. It's two different periods. What is the purpose of both? What's the purpose? Shehi gilui eireis of Baruch Hu ba'olam hazeh agashmi. You know, the purpose is that God should be revealed on earth. The purpose is not to be able to philosophize. The purpose is not just to know more about God. The purpose is to see and feel God in our daily life. Begili. Not Begili means like I see you and you see me, and you look outside, you see the sun and you see, right? That's the way we should see Hashem. Says the Alter Rebbe, since he spoke about this in chapter 36. He continues now in 37, and he says, I have a secret for you, tells you. You know who and when makes this a reality? We now in Golus. Look at the next words. Totally. Very powerful word. Totally. This depends on, this revelation of both the Messianic days and the resurrection of the dead. The totally b'maseinu v'avodaseinu depends on our actions and our service. Again, here, the Alter Rebbe employs two words, maseinu v'avodaseinu. In a moment, I'll explain that. But Pashtus, what is the Alter Rebbe saying here? That Mashiach's days and the miracles that we'll have when there be the resurrection of the dead depends on us today. So you can imagine, we today, helping another Yid, doing a mitzvah, doing a teiva, doing a favor, being nice, and everything else, that is the key to unlock Messianic days and the miracle of Tchias HaMesim. This is a very, very revolutionary thought, and I'll tell you why. Because the normal way of thinking of a frum Jew, of a learned Jew, of a Torah Jew, of a what they call a Ben Torah is the following. The following is like this. We learn now, and we daven now, and we do mitzvahs. And they are stored in our lockers, in our cubbies, in our backpacks. And one day we will be all together. One day when Mashiach will come, it'll be unpacked, taken out, and said, "Here, Yoni, on Zion Kislev Tovshim Pei Dalid, you learned Torah, you learned Chassidus, you learned, you did mitzvahs, and I want to show you what you accomplished on this day. I want to show you exactly what was the result of your learning on this specific day at this specific time." That's the traditional way that a frum Jew, a Torah Jew, looks at every Torah mitzvahs and purpose and reward. Comes along the Alter Rebbe here in Tanya in chapter 37, and he says these three words, and he says, "Toloi b'maseinu v'avodaseinu." He says, no. It's not that you're getting a reward later, but your actions right now is the reward. He's going to say it in a line or two later. Schar mitzvah, right? When you say the reward for something, you go to school, you study, you gain knowledge, then you go to work using your knowledge, and you make parnosa. So what's the result of your hard work? The result is a reward, parnosa. But the actual study and the actual work, is that itself an end to itself? No. And many times we don't like our work and we don't like our studies. If we had it our way, we wouldn't study that, or we wouldn't do that. Our parents wanted us to go to university, take a certain courses, and become a lawyer, a doctor, or a businessman, or whatever else. And really, you're not interested in that. How many of us know people like that? There's plenty. Midlife crisis. They wake up and they say, "I wasted my time in college, university. I'm not interested in this stuff." Right? So, in other words, the work itself is not an end to itself. It's a means to an end. Says the Alter Rebbe here, no. When it comes to Torah mitzvahs and the purpose of creation, the purpose of why we're here, that itself is the end. That is not just a means to an end. That is this. And what is that? Avoda. Look at the words. Tola b'maseinu, our action, maseh, our deeds, v'avodoseinu, and our service. In other words, both ideas, action, deed, and hard work, and avodah is an end in itself. That is the reward. The fact that you don't see it now, it's because we have blinders on our eyes. And that's why tzaddikim, or people who've refined themselves, they could see the reward of their mitzvahs and people's good mitzvahs now, not later. You know, the Rebbe said, you've heard this over and over, I'm sure, in the last month and a half, the Rebbe said in the summer of 1973, before the Yom Kippur War, the Rebbe spoke a lot about gathering children, making kinusim, and having children say psukim and learn Torah and all of that, gathering them together. After the war broke out, the Yom Kippur War, the Rebbe said, I didn't know what pushed me. But why did I all of a sudden speak about this in the summer of 73? But he says, now I see what Hashem wanted. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but that was, he did say those words. That he didn't know what pushed him to encourage children to gather and have these kinusim. But now after the war broke out, he realizes that's what was going on. The Eibishter saw that a war is coming. That was the gzeira. That's the way it was. And the antidote was like Mordechai Yehudi gathering Jewish kinderlach to learn Torah and daven and say Tilim and everything else. Right? So sometimes tzaddikim are also not shown the entire picture at the time, only later. But there are tzaddikim at certain times, and you can't measure when, what, how, who see things. I told you this in the past, when Ariel Sharon walked by the Rebbe in, I think, 70 or 71, and the Rebbe stopped him and said, Mr. Sharon, I just got notice, I was told a few hours before you came, that the Israeli representative for the Israeli Bonds dinner in Manhattan couldn't make it. And I mean, it was a major New York dinner at a Hilton or whatever, all the machers were going to come, and it was a fundraiser. Big money, and for Eretz Yisrael, for bonds, Israeli bonds. So the Rebbe said, you're a statesman. He wasn't prime minister then, you're a general. And it would be nice if you could substitute for the person who was supposed to speak. And so he says, Rebbe, I would love to do it, but from here, from 770, now my driver's waiting outside, my taxi, and we're going to JFK, and I'm going back because I have meetings tomorrow in Eretz Yisrael. So the Rebbe said to him, listen, Mr. Sharon, do what you need to, but if you could make that happen, I think it would be a good thing. He goes out, he walks down those steps of 770 that many of you have been on, and he goes to the driver and he tells him, instead of going on Eastern Parkway towards JFK, make a U-turn or make a left turn on the Kingston Avenue Service Road and go towards the Brooklyn Bridge or the Manhattan Bridge and go into Manhattan to the dinner, to the hotel I'm going to speak. and I'm going to call up and push off certain meetings, and I'll come a day later. And that night, and we could document the night and the flight, the plane was hijacked. And clearly they said that who was the one that they wanted? Ariel Sharon. So people ask a question. Did the Rebbe know? And if he knew, why didn't he tell him, Mr. Sharon, you better not get on the plane, you're going to be hijacked. So the answer, it's based on Kabbalah. I heard this from great scholars as well, Torah scholars. The Zohar HaKodesh, I believe in the Akdama to the Zohar, talks about how the Eibishter, Hashem, hides things even from tzaddikim. That's part of the Eibishter's plan. And it's a Rashi in Parshas Vayechi. Yaakov wants to bless his children. What does Rashi say? Sostum. He hid. He couldn't see. All of a sudden, he loses the spiritual vision. Sorry, Yaakov. I'm not blessed. He wanted to tell them. When Mashiach is going to come. He wants to spill the beans. David says, Yaakov, you can't do that. Sorry, I'm not ready for that. And all of a sudden he's going, what happened over here? The Eibishter blocked him. So you can explain the Rebbe not telling Sharon because the Eibishter blocked him. You can say he didn't know. I'm not going into that. A chassid will tell you, of course he knew. And he wasn't allowed to say, everyone, a Lubavitcher chassid, a real Lubavitcher chassid. Everyone will argue and come up, but the Zohar HaKodesh does say that. So the Alter Rebbe here in Tanya in chapter 37, when he starts off talking about Yemoisa Mashiach, the ultimate Yemoisa Mashiach, he says it's dependent upon our Maseinu Vavodoseinu. And as far as that's concerned, there's no blockages. Our ma'asim, our deeds, our action, and our hard work, avodaseinu, that itself is an end. That itself is an accomplishment. The realization of what that does on the global level and even on a personal level, that will be either when Mashiach will come, or if you merit to a Mashiach-like experience pre-Mashiach, you'll see it then. Right? Like the Rebbe said, that the conducive, that the call for children gathering in the summer of 73, he realized after the Yom Kippur War that was what was pushing him as an antidote to save the Jewish people and help the Jewish people succeed in their war, etc. Because it could have been a lot worse. Right? We were caught by surprise in the Yom Kippur War. So, in hindsight, the Rebbe said that was what he thinks and sees as the reason for calling for gatherings. Okay? And by the way, halavai, we would have today a Lubavitcher Rebbe or someone like him that would do the same thing, that would say the same thing. Nothing. 6.5, 7 weeks have passed by. I haven't heard. I heard a call for saying Avinu Malkeinu, very nice. I heard a call for fasting, very nice. Giving tzedakah. I'm saying it's like from all these Rebbes and all these Gedolim, at least my ears haven't heard a universal, global, offensive, of spiritual offensive act to do something. That's nebuch, the situation we're in today, where our leaders are in a way leaderless. I'm not going to go into it, but they're leaderless. And that's another reason we need Mashiach. It used to be, whether it was a Satmarov, a Kloisenbergerov, or a Baron Kotler. I'm saying these were people who weren't afraid to speak their minds. regardless of the criticism that they got, and each of them got criticism. Every one of them got criticism. This guy didn't like what this one said. This one, right? What's new, right? But nevertheless, they spoke their mind. They had followers, and they went with it. Chabad in its way, the Litvish in their way, Rabbi Avadia Yosef in his way. Where is there an Avadia Yosef today? Find me one Avadia Yosef. Find me one Baba Sali. Whatever. Anyway, Hashem knows what he's doing, so he'll have mercy and he'll bring Mashiach quickly. But anyway, I want to go back to what we're learning now. I don't mean to bring morbidity and negativity here to the table. Just to realize, to understand what the Rebbe did, the magnitude of what the Rebbe did, and what the weight that he carried on his shoulders, and the breitkeit, we say in Yiddish, the broadness, the taking the risk and going out and calling for certain, activities. That's what we need today. More and more of that. What we're doing is great, and there's Avos Yisrael, and people are together as we've discussed, and especially in Eretz Yisrael, it's all gewaldig. But we need some global, message of spiritually to get everyone together, in a way that is shattering. Anyway. So the Rebbe says here, why does he say b'maseinu v'avodaseinu? Seemingly that's superfluous. The word it's the same. It's repetitious. Our deeds, Mashiach's coming and everything else, and Tchias HaMesim is dependent on maseinu v'avodaseinu. Our deeds and our service. It sounds the same. So the Rebbe's father picks up on this, and the Rebbe's father says that later in Igeres HaKodesh, there was a letter where the Alter Rebbe speaks about the difference between ma'aseh and avodah. What does he say over there? That ma'aseh is doing what you need to do, but you don't exert yourself beyond the norm. Avodah seinu, that's exertion beyond the norm. That's going beyond the letter of the law. Avodah is an entire different realm. So the Alter Rebbe says that the Rebbe's father says, b'maseinu, which is the norm, your actions will bring to a normal, expected experience called the Messianic days, Yemos HaMashiach. But avodaseinu, the second word referring to service, going beyond the norm, beyond the letter of the law, that will lead to something unexpected, i.e., what he said earlier, Tchias HaMesim, resurrection of the dead. So just like you have two stages, Yemos HaMashiach, which is expected, and then Tchias HaMesim, which is the unexpected, it's supernatural, resurrection of the dead. So the Alter Rebbe right away says, you want to tap into both? So ma'aseinu, our regular deeds that we do today, that is what's the word I'm looking for? That is the issue that will cause and bring Messianic days. And avodaseinu, and doing it beyond your letter of the law, exerting yourself in a way that's through service and hard work and beyond what you can regularly do, regularly, that will bring to your Tchias HaMesim, the resurrection of the dead, which is unexpected. So that's also a very important nekuda. People ask, what relationship, what kesher do I have with Tchias HaMesim? It's a miracle. The Alter Rebbe says, no, of course it's a miracle. The Alter Rebbe says, but if you exert yourself, then you will cause Tchias HaMesim. See, because the word tolui here is it's one word, and a little word, but it means dependent. Avod, Yemos HaMashiach and Tchias HaMesim are dependent on two things that we do today. That means that through our avodah, which is going beyond the letter of the law and exerting yourself, that is the catalyst. That is the catalyst for Tchias HaMesim. That's what it says in Tanya here. A very important point. That means that every Yid Velvel has a shaykhis, has a connection, has an association. And if they have Yoni, a connection, association, that means they have an obligation to do this because it will lead to Yemei Mashiach. Let's continue. Kol Zman Meshech HaGolus. This activity, these activities of our work and our Avodah, it goes on, Kol Zman, the entire time of Golus. You can't say, hey, I did my exertion and now I should feel Mashiach, I should feel resurrection. No. It's Kol Zman Meshech HaGolus, the entire time of Golus. And why is that? So the Alter Rebbe explains, why do these two things bring about Messianic days and resurrection of the dead? Ki hagoyrim schar ha-mitzvah hu ha-mitzvah bi'atzmo. Because the thing that causes the reward to the mitzvah is the mitzvah itself. When Mashiach will come, we will see that our putting on a tefillin this morning, that itself is the issue that taps into Hashem. Not that putting on tefillin this morning gets us a reward, and the reward is something other than putting on tefillin. Tefillin itself is the reward, but now we don't see it, and then we will see it. Continuing. Yes,
that's meaningful to me because I just got my grandson's tefillin. He's going to put them on for the first day tomorrow.
Oh, beautiful. A lot of Yiddish nachas and good health. Kibyasi because when you do the deed, mamshich ha'adam gilui oirisav, a person draws down the revelation of the infinite God, milmayla mata, from above to below, lislabish begashmi selamaza, to invest itself in the physical corporeal world, bedover shoytchila tachas memshelas klipis noiga, it invests itself in something that initially was under the domain of the negative forces, and which had received its vitality from the klippa. But now, being that it's neutral, for example, see, he talks about tefillin, the parchment of tefillin, umezuzah, the Sefer Torah. Moshe the writes mezuzah Sefer Torah. They were not prepared from heaven, only those that are kosher animals, kosher hide for tefillin and mezuzahs and everything else. What's the Alter Rebbe's point? Here it was an animal in a barn somewhere in Iowa, Nebraska, and it's having its a heyday, eating hay and roaming around. You take it, you shecht it al pidin, it's a kosher animal, you take the hide, the parchment, the cow, and from the cow, and you make of it tefillin mezuzahs, right? So what have you done? You've transformed klipa into kedusha. This is a mashal of what? A mashal of a tzomeach. Of a chai, of an animal. V'chein esrog. The Alter Rebbe gives another example of the esrog she'eina orla, which is not orla, which is forbidden, right? That's an example of what? Of tzomeach, the vegetative world, something that grows. And finally, money, which is matbeya, which is inanimate. Umoy is hatstoka, when you take money, she'einam gezel, that is not stolen, ukiyoytze behem, and similar to all of this. Let's continue on page 97. Shemekayim behem mitzvah Hashem b'ritzoynei, when you do Hashem's will. Hariachayah behem, the energy within these items. Oile umizbatel v'nichol, they ascend and they are submerged and incorporated by itself in the infinity of God, through the ritzoynei is baruch, which is God's will. Hamalupish behem, that's invested in mehem. Because when you make a mitzvah out of it, there's no concealment of God's countenance. To hide God. So we'll stop over here. So the point being, the Alter Rebbe is saying that the purpose is to take and transform the Chai, the Tzomeach, and the domain, man, Adam. Right? Adam has the responsibility of transforming them. And when you do that, you live out, you experience what will be felt to everyone when Mashiach comes, which is the revelation of God. So now we take something neutral, and by transforming it, you're taking coins and you give it to tzedakah, so the physical coin, the copper, and whatever else has an elevation. I do want to say that the Shir is dedicated to the young soldier from Bet Shemesh that passed away now but was murdered. Binyamin, I think was his name.
Yeah, Binyamin.
What was his father's name?
Mayor.
I think his name is Binyamin Meir.
Mayor Ben
David. I think David Peretz.
David Peretz, Nisham Haman Aliyah, and
Ben David.
Ben David.
Ben David.
Nisham should have an Aliyah, and I'm sure it was a very hard weekend for all of you there, for all of us, but especially for all of you there. And Yaini says he knows the family is close to them, so it's.
I went to yeshiva with father.
What?
I went to the yeshiva with father.
Oh, you went to yeshiva with the father.
We went to yeshiva together. For a very long time also.
You know, it's we need Chazdei Hashem. Chazdei Hashem maybe should help that we should continue, but only through Simcha. It's hard, but there's no other solution. You know, for Shteitzer, there's Shiva and all that, but stark. You got to hold on, strong, and it will happen. And to daven to Hashem that there should be less karbonos. It's every day. Today they announced, I don't know, another 4 soldiers. So in the last 2 days, Shabbos and Sunday, 9 soldiers fell. It's Shemu Shemayim. And now they're talking about a pause. I don't want to get into it. Seid gesund, Chevra, only Psuras Taiva.